I miss the human connection of it all. And as far as what you mentioned with like cancel culture and sensitivity, I remember feeling a sense of this after 9/11. And then a month
Hmm.
later, comedy came back. We did a Friars Club roast of Hugh Hefner, which was funny and provocative and cathartic. I do think that this will be a heightened version of that. When we do come back, people will be so longing. It's like comedy's like if we've all heard this, it's the best medicine. But nobody ever wants their medicine watered down. They want their medicine potent. So I do think it's going to come back bigger and heartier than ever.
Even so, I feel like there's this element of fear
Yeah.
that stifles. I think a lot about what my mom would be saying and what would she be doing, and it's this sort of constant second guessing is going to be really difficult to write comedy, to write TV shows, to go out and try material. Because now, especially with cell phones, you say one thing and it's out of context and you're done.
And even someone at your mom's level had to be careful, which is so alarming. At a certain point, comedians, they're like black belts. I mean, they are in charge of the line. Someone like Joan Rivers, if she were around today, she would be deciding what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. And if she wants to move the line, so be it. And there's some comedians out there still doing it, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, there's fear. There's fear because everybody wants to be accepted. Even ball busters want to be loved. And there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of haters right now.
Yeah,
And do
I agree with that. I remember when, like you were saying, after 9/11, and Joan was making a joke and she would say, "Is it too soon?" And she was like, "Come on, we have to laugh." She was like, "All the pain, come on." But that would always be her question. So I could very easily hear her saying, with the Black Lives Matter movement, "Is it too soon?"
Mm.
As she starts to process, the jokes and going through her notes. And it sounds like, you're constantly at that point, at that crossroad, just even on Twitter or Instagram, any of your social platforms.
Yeah, it is refreshing to see. I guess it's Melissa posting for Joan on Joan's account. It's refreshing to see the jokes from the files to remind people that this shit was okay. And the idea that people are apologizing for stuff they made not one or two, but 10, 20, 30 years ago is so demoralizing. Why can't we learn and evolve? What are we apologizing for?
By the way, that's exactly what I say. And I always think about the Kevin Hart Academy Awards thing.
Right.
In context of the time where he made the joke, that kind of material was acceptable. So suddenly, again, you're being held to your feet to the fire from a joke you made 10, 15 years ago, again, not allowed to evolve. And yet it's like high school. It's on your permanent record.
And it's not even that the jokes were acceptable, it's that Kevin Hart worked a smaller circuit back then.
Right.
And if you're following someone on Twitter, you're presumably a fan and you're looking for their brand of comedy, or you're taking a journey with that performer, that entertainer, that influencer, if you will. But what really offends me is when people get offended by comments from comics who they don't even follow. Like
Right.
Wilbur Godfrey will tweet about a tornado in Japan, and people in Wisconsin are offended. It's like, and they don't even follow him. They just see a reprinting of the tweet. So this is the part that really upsets me is I'm offended by people that are constantly offended. It's like we need to have thick skin. We need to be able to take a joke. And we're all getting really soft.
Totally. Is there anything bringing you laughter? A television show?
Yeah, you want to see what's making me happy right now?
Yeah.
That.
Aww.
Oh, your dog. Hello, puppy.
Your fur baby.
Come here, Nana. You want to eat this?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you know, I've taken myself out of TV and out of what would normally be my entertainment and going, all right, well, I'm in quarantine. Dogs, friends, walks. These are the types of things that are literally making me laugh, finding the humor in stuff that I used to run right past. Um,
It's the simple things in life now.
that's right, Sabrina. That's exactly it. And you realize that they're simple because we've been calling them simple our whole lives, but in fact they're very rich. You know, I never had a dog before, and now I have 30 minutes of material on this dog that I only do for my friends who come by. It looks like a new audience every weekend. 7 people wearing masks in my backyard. And it reminds me of when I was funny as a kid, like just hanging out, playing poker with my buddies. So I'm getting back to my roots. I consider this a sabbatical. You know, my brother-in-law is a lawyer. After 20 years, he made partner. They gave him half a year off. And I go, well, maybe I've earned that. I'm now a partner in my comedy firm. And this is the year where I guess I'll absorb new things. Maybe I'll travel when we're allowed to travel. Maybe I'll read. Maybe I'm getting another dog, I think. The shelter wants to bring another German Shepherd puppy by. I already know that that will be a very roastable, comedic
Moment.
So,
You said you've been you write jokes and now you're like, well, it's funny, but I can't say it and put it in a drawer.
yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a workaround? Do you think it's going to be eventually we'll be able to be at the edge where really everybody was before all this started?
Right.
I mean, we're already seeing the shift in TV and in movies. And we were talking about you couldn't make Animal House anymore. You couldn't make Airplane anymore. You couldn't make Blazing Saddles. You couldn't make Some Like It Hot.
I watched The Apartment the other night.
Uh-huh.
I would get canceled for pitching that movie.
Right. I mean, that's how it is now.
Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon, and Shirley MacLaine, all phenomenal performances. And you look at the premise of that, and it just wouldn't fly today. And, you know, maybe there's some greatness to that, but there's also a little bit of sadness to it in a lot of ways.
I think that we have to have a balance. I mean, yes, we have that level of sensitivity, but not to the extreme where everything is scrutinized and everything's under a microscope. Everything.
Right.
You know, it's insane.
Obviously, there's a lot of good happening. We're cleaning up toxic workplaces. And if I ever have a kid, especially a daughter, it would be nice to know that if they want to go into show business, it won't be the gutter that I lived through. It won't be the hell that I read about in Enter Talking that women had to go through in the 40s and 50s and
Let's not make her that old. Let's say
whatever it
60s.
was. Sorry.
Let's say 60s.
Sorry, I read about her childhood and
Yeah, like a lightning bolt is going to come and strike you in a minute.
Great book, by the way, for all
Thank
the
you.
Ghostbusters fans out there. I highly recommend Enter Talking. I learned a lot very early during my open mic days from reading that and from reading Sammy Davis Jr.'s book by his own admission and rose to the top ranks of show business. So if that doesn't inspire you to overcome national moods and racial discrimination and everything else, cancel culture was different then, but it also worked kind of like McCarthyism too. Like you got blackballed and you were off. You know, that happens to comics too. And you know, maybe Lenny Bruce was canceled, if you will. He was ranting about his legal issues at the end of his life, and I'm sure drugs played a big part of it, but maybe the drugs came because of the canceling of Lenny Bruce. You know, comedy, I always did it as an outlet, as a way to meet people, for a social life, as a creative outlet. I didn't know that I would be walking a line like this where people are trying to take your head off. People are trying to embarrass you and humiliate you.